Hello, welcome back to the Kneady Homesteader channel. And first off, I'm so sorry, dishwasher is running. It is about 11 o'clock at night, and this is when I do my best work. Not really, but this is when we're going to be making a video because yesterday I made pickles. And I will leave that video up above for you guys so you guys can check it out. Tonight we are going to wash them up, get them labeled, and get them put away into the pantry. So I figured I would share this step with you because this is a super important step. Many people don't know that they have to wash their jars and inspect their jars. Many people don't know that they have to remove their rings from their jars and make sure everything is sealed, make sure everything looks good. Give them a hot soapy bath, dry them off, label them. You always want to label them. Just, you know, I mean, you never know when you might find that one random jar of pickles in the very back of your shelf, and you're not going to know when you canned them and what you put in it. So always label them, always date them, so you always know what they are. I write right on top. I don't like stickers on my jars, so I write right on top of the jar. But as you see, they have some watermarks on them. Sometimes they will have, especially if you're making jam or jelly, they will be sticky. Pie filling especially, they'll be sticky. This can mold over time, which will then grow under your lid and pop your lid. It will mold the food inside. Your lids, or sorry, your rings will also be sticky and sometimes have food particles inside. Very important to keep them washed. Always important to take a look at the condition of your ring, making sure that it's in good condition. They're not rusty, they don't have any, you know, they're not dinged up, but they're going to do the job that you want them to do and need them to do to hold down this lid during a canning process. So very important to inspect your jars, wash your jars, remove your rings. I do not store my jars with the rings because it can create a false seal. First the battery dies, right? So if you store your bands on your jars, if for any reason there is some food particle that is stuck under here and over time this pops, if the jar gets too warm, whatever the reason is, you have a false seal. If you have a lid pressing down on that, or a ring pressing down on that lid, it can create a false seal, which is where it appears to have resealed itself, but it's not sealed. So I never store the bands or rings on my jars, okay? I just personally don't do that. There's just more reasons not to do it than there are reasons to do it. So but this step is very important, and this is a step that a lot of canners don't show. You know, they show the process, myself included, and then we're done. We don't show you setups or prep work or the breakdown, the cleanup work, because quite frankly, you know, you guys want to watch a canning session. I like to watch canning sessions. This is what we deem like kind of the boring part. Boring as it is, it's extremely important. So I wanted to film it for you tonight. I have filmed this in the past. I've made previous videos on this, but since there's so many new canners out there watching me, I wanted to go ahead and make you a new video just showing this process. And I might do this more often just because I think it is so important. So I'm going to spin you around. We're going to get to my sink. We are going to inspect these jars. We are going to wash them up. I'm going to show you exactly how I do mine. Okay, so here we are at my kitchen sink. I'm going to, please excuse me as I remove all of my rings. We are going to first start with really hot water. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. I'm going to lock down my sink here. I want really hot water, and then I use Dawn Blue Original. It's my favorite. Sometimes I mix it with a little Grove Collaborative, something scented. Right now I have the basil. I think it's the basil that I have in here, mixed with some Blue Dawn. But Blue Dawn is my favorite. It just cuts the grease the best, and I love it. So that's what I personally use. All right, so once this gets hot, I'm gonna go ahead and just fill my sink here, not all the way. It's going to be shallow. I just need enough. And then I'm going to go ahead and use some vinegar. I prefer cleaning strength vinegar. Not everybody can find that though. So just use distilled vinegar if that's all you can find. Put a little chug in there. I would guess like maybe a quarter of a cup. It's really going to help clean your jars, especially if you have hard water. I am on a well. We do have a water softener. We have 2 water filters. Well, actually 1 water filter on this. The second one's on my fridge. So a whole house water, or I have a whole house water filtering system along with a full house water softening system, but I still have hard water because I'm on well. So adding that vinegar is going to make a big difference. So that's it. That's all I do. Just a little sinkful, okay? And this is how we're going to wash them. So this is what I do. Now I've already taken the ring off of this one, but I would normally take the ring off, okay? You want to inspect the ring. I want to make sure that there's no rust on here, okay? All I've got is some grime. So then I go ahead and I just toss it right into my water, and that's where I let it soak. With the jar, I want to make sure it's sealed first off, okay? You should have checked that anyway. You're going to want to check that anyway as just an excited new canner. You want to make sure all your jars seal. So you'll see that it's pressed in on the center. There's no bubble. There's nothing bouncing back. This is a nice sealed jar. You can also test it by holding the jar by the actual lid and making sure that it holds. And then I want to inspect the jar. Like, I want to make sure that the headspace is good. Okay, so this is a 1/2 inch headspace, and that is good. You can test that by the, I showed you in another video, I'll leave it up above on how to do that using the glass. So headspace is good. Now, if I have a jar that has some evacuation in it, I am going to make sure that I put that in the front of my pantry, so I use that jar up first. I put the prettiest jars in the back. I put the ugliest jars, or the jars with any kind of evacuation or anything that is just a little low or just a little off, I put those in the front, so I use those right away. That's how I do it. So I'm looking at this. I want to make sure everything looks good, headspace is good, seal is good, and now I'm going to wash it. So I just take a rag, my hot soapy vinegar water with Dawn dish soap, and I stand my jar up. You don't want to submerge your jar. That's why we don't fill it up very high. That's all it is. It's about, you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of water. I then take my hot soapy rag and I start at the top, and I want to get all that hard water mark off of my lid, and then I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to go around the base of this rim of this lid, and I'm going to make sure that I'm getting in there, right into those crevices. I want to make sure that there is no food particles at all. There's no dill, there's no liquid, there's no anything that could eventually, with time, pop my lid. So I go around and I make sure that that is nice and scrubbed and cleaned. And then I clean the rest of the jar. So down, and then that way everything is nice and washed. Any kind of vinegar that might have leaked out, any hard water spots, and then at the bottom, I wash my bottom, and then I come over here with hot water. I give it a nice rinse, which I like that better. And then that is a perfectly, beautifully clean jar, looked at, evaluated. This is a nice one. This can go in the back. It's good to go. So let's do a second one together. So I'm going to remove that ring. I'm going to take a look at that ring. I'm going to make sure it's not rusty on the inside. There's no big gloopy anything. It's a nice ring. I don't want rust near my food. I don't want evacuation, because during a canning process, food does evacuate out of here. So I don't want anything rusty touching any part of any liquid or any kind of food, you know, that I'm preparing. So I'm very particular on mine. I inspect mine, I wash mine. Once it passes, it goes back into the water. Again, I want to make sure the seals, I'm going to hold it. It's got a nice seal. I'm going to check the headspace, and it is beautifully spot on, 1/2 inch headspace. This is a good jar for me. So I'm going to go ahead, wash the top, get all of the hard water stains off. I'm going to go around the edge and really wash around those grooves, making sure everything is nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and wash this jar all the way around, getting any kind of drippings off and hard water marks. And then I'm going to wash the bottom. I'm going to give this a good rinse. And this is a pretty jar. This can also go towards the back of the pantry. And then I'll just keep going, okay? Now, when I get all of my jars done, I come back and I know all of these, the rings that are in here are good. Anything that I feel is questionable or I just don't want near my food, I toss them. And I replace them. So this is how I clean them. But these that I keep in here, the ones that I toss in here, these are good. But I want to wash them. I want to clean them. So what I do is I take my rag and I take my ring and I hold it with my fingers inside of it. And then I spin the ring, getting it all the way around multiple times. So this way my fingers are getting any kind of gloopiness on the inside. And these are nice and clean. This is very important when you're doing pie filling because you will get a lot of gloopy goopy there, a lot of sticky. You want these nice and clean. And then I give these a good rinse. And you want to make sure you dry these because they will rust. So it's important to dry them. So that's how I wash the rings. Okay, we'll do one more. I just grip it with my fingers so that I can grip it and spin. Get all of the inside grooves. Just inspect it. Give it a nice wash. Now discolorization is normal, okay? And you're gonna see, you'll find some, find some of that will come up on your rag. That's really using any kind of vinegar. It will oxidize a bit. Oxidization is fine. You just don't want rust, okay? So I know it's a big question. I've been getting a lot lately from newbie canners about rings. So I want to make sure that this is just how I do, okay? You do what you want to do. This is how I do. This is how I prep for my family. This is how I can and prepare food for them. So I want to make sure that ring is nice and clean. And I'm going to lay it over here and I'm going to make sure I dry it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going here and I'm going to keep washing, keep inspecting those rings, inspecting my lid, inspecting my headspace. Good wash. And then I will bring you guys back when we get to drying and labeling and getting these ready to put on my pantry shelf, which is so exciting. It's like the funnest part is stocking the pantry. So now they're all washed up and they're all over here. And they all look beautiful. They all sealed. All of their headspace looks beautiful. They are ready to go. Now, my rings over here, I wanted to show you, these are the inside of the rings. This is what I'm looking for. There was one that had some oxidization on it. There's a little bit in there, as you can see, just a little bit around the edge, if you can see right like here. I'm showing you this because this is a natural part of the process of, using these kinds of, tinny rings. But as long as it's just discolorization and not rust, I'm still good with it. Of course, you know, it might live up for another 5 canning sessions. It might only live through 1. As soon as I start seeing rust, that's when I'm getting rid of it. So everything else looks really good. So I'm really looking for clean insides, clean outsides. And now what I'm going to do with these, and I wanted to show you, this is what was inside the rings. Okay, so if you're not washing and scrubbing the insides of your rings, first off, the life of them is not going to last. You'll get a lot less life out of them. But that's the oxidization, and that's inside those rings. So it's important to wash your rings, okay? And there's many people that don't do that. So that's why I'm sharing this, because I think it's important. You know, you want your stuff to last as long as possible. So the best way to do that is to take care of it, right? So what I do now with my rings first, because these are, you know, to me, because they're prone to being rusty, getting rusty, I like to dry them first. So just like how I wash them, I dry them. I tuck my fingers on the inside. Okay, you might still get some oxidization off of these. That's going to be totally normal. Okay, you just want them nice and dry. And then I will set them off to the side, and then these get put back in storage. I keep them in gallon-size bags. However you store your rings, that's what you want to do. Once in a while, change position on the rag. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit here and dry them all, and then we will get to the jars. Okay, so now once all of our rings are washed and dried, we're going to come on over here, and now we're going to do the jars. So let's grab a jar, and I'm going to grab a dry towel here because that one's a little wet. So nice dry towel. I always start with the top, because this is where you'll get the watermarks. So dry the top, and this one will still have a little watermark on it. And then I dry, just like I wash, I dry all of the ridges around here really well. And then I give the rest of the jar a nice drying. And then I set it off to the side, do the next one, dry the top. Dry the edging around the jar, and then dry the rest of it. And I will just keep going here. I won't bore you too much. You get the point. Dry the top, dry the ridges, and then dry the rest of the jar. Okay, so now that I have all of my jars nice and cleaned and dried, I'm using the SureTight lid. Okay, so let me see if I can get that to focus. It does leave you a spot for your month, your day, and your year. I never fill out the day part. I just do month and year. And then I put what it is. So now my pickles are a little different. Okay, so not all of them are the same. What I do when I line them up, I always put bigger jars in the back. It's just easier to write. And I put them all on a little slant because I'm right-handed, and that's how I write. And so it just makes it easy to go through each and every jar. Okay, so my pickles are a little different. These tall ones are garlic dills. So I'm going to put garlic, dill, pickle, and then I'm going to just put 820 for the date. Okay, so garlic, dill, pickle, and you can do it nice and neat, unlike me. You want to do it neater. Let's see, garlic, dill, pickle, 820. And so I'm going to just keep doing that on these smaller ones now. These are spicy garlic, dill pickle 8-20. So I'm going to go ahead and label all of my jars. Okay, and there they are. Now they're ready to go up in the pantry and be used as we go here. So I hope this video was helpful to you. This isn't the right way. This is just the way that I do it. I hope I explained the reasons why I do it the way that I do it. And I hope that this helped you beginners out there. I know when you're learning canning, everything can just seem like really overwhelming, and there just seems to be a lot of steps, and it just seems to be a big process, and it doesn't have to be. But it is important, like the breakdown, the cleanup, the storage, it's all important. You know, you've invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, hard work, a lot of love goes into these jars. So cleaning them and storing them properly is just as important as the actual process itself. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I will try my very best to answer them. Again, this is just my way, and I just thought I would share it because I get a lot of questions about, now what? Now what do I do with them? So this is what I do. So I hope you found it helpful. I will be seeing you guys tomorrow when we can up green beans. I'm going to show you the process that I do in the prep work of prepping my green beans. Another question I've been getting a lot of. So I will show you kind of the behind the scenes that I don't usually film. So all right, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.